friends, today now we are taking up the place and promotion decisions in the marketing mix. You would recall that in the last discussion that we had, we talked about the first two elements, the product as well as the price. Now here we are going to talk about the place and the promotion element of the rural marketing mix. So by place, how do we distribute our products to the rural markets? We have already discussed that rural markets are generally scattered, the population density is low, and many a times the transport infrastructure is also not very well developed. Roads are not all-weather roads. So there are so many distribution constraints as far as rural markets are concerned. So now we are going to discuss those models that you can adopt in the rural markets to distribute your product, to make your products accessible for the customers. So the first model that is there is the hub and spoke model. Now have a look at this particular diagram and you'll understand what a hub and spoke model is. Herein, please see, the hub is the wholesaler town. You can now see the hub. Can you see the hub now? Okay, so this is basically the hub. You can see it here. This is the hub. This is the hub, right? And now from here the product is being sent to A1. Now this is the main town. From there the product is being sent to the smaller towns in the vicinity of the main town. So there are four such small towns, A1, A2, A3 and A4. So the product is being sent to them. From there, this small town wholesaler would supply it to retailers in the villages. So this is the hub and spoke model. So this is the hub and this is the spoke. Now A1, A2, A3 and A4 are the spokes. So basically the product originates from here and then it reaches the wholesaler, sends it to A1, A2, A3 and A4, which are smaller towns in the vicinity of this bigger town. And from these smaller towns, the product reaches S1, S2, S4, S3, which are basically retailers in the rural area. So this is the hub and spoke model. So rather than having to distribute your product straight away to a retailer, let's say this particular retailer, you will do what? You will make it reach the wholesaler here in the big town, who will then send it further to the small wholesaler in the vicinity of the bigger town, the small wholesaler in the small town in the vicinity of this bigger town, and this small wholesaler would then ultimately supply to S1, S2, S3 and S4s. So this is how the whole distribution would take place. So hub and spoke model is used in rural markets. So this is one model that you can adopt to make your product reach the customers in the rural markets. Then we have these are the destinations, as we've already discussed. These are the destinations, S1, S2, S4. Then we have the extension counters. Now what do we mean by the extension counters? Basically extension counters are some kind of a smaller presence by a bigger dealer in a particular area. For example, I'll take example of the Nainital dealership, which is basically there in the Nainital district. It's basically there in Haldwani, but they have opened up an extension counter in Pithoragarh also. So in the extension counter you would not find the whole range of vehicles. There would only be 3 or 4 vehicles at most which would be displayed. So this is basically a small outlet that the main dealer has opened up in a faraway place. So the dealers of automobiles and consumer durables can open up their extension counters in the villages or in a location which is close to some villages. So this is what they can do. So rather than opening up the whole dealership in a particular village or in a particular rural area, they can start having extension counters. So extension counters are going to cost you less also. They are going to be relatively smaller. But whenever there is any demand, the demand would be fulfilled by the main dealership. I'll again take up the example of Nainital Motors. So let us say Nainital Motors, which is basically based in Haldwani in the Nainital district. So they have opened up extension counters in, let's say, Pithoragarh and relatively remote areas near Pithoragarh, and whenever there is a demand of a vehicle, the vehicle would be supplied by the main dealer headquarter, which is in this case is in Haldwani, right? So this is what extension counters mean, and this is what are basically used by automobile dealers and the dealers in the consumer goods space also. Then use of bicycles is a very common medium that is made use of in rural markets, wherein the bicycle is fitted with a storage box and there are visuals. So visuals are basically for the purpose of promoting a particular product, and the storage box is to store the product, and the person who owns the bicycle, he'll go around in the bicycle with the product in his box, in his carrier box, and then he would be able to sell it to the customers. Then we also have this system of mobile traders or the feriwalas. So you simply provide the product to the feriwalas. They will go around different villages, and then they will also sell the product. So that is why they are called mobile traders. Mobile traders means they keep on moving, and that is why in Hindi we call them feriwalas. So this is another mode which you can apply to make your products reach the remotest of the rural markets. Then we can also make use of mobile ATMs and health vans. You would have seen the mobile ATMs. What happens in mobile ATMs is, let us say for example, it is not easy and it is not also feasible for a bank to have an ATM in villages also. So what will a bank do? It will have a van which will be equipped with ATM service, with ATM facility, and this particular van would move about, and there would be a proper scheduling regarding which particular village will have to be visited on which particular day of the week. The people in the village will also know that the bank ATM, mobile ATM will be arriving today, and so according to this schedule, the mobile van, the ATM van will move about in different villages and disperse the money to the customers in these villages. So this way you don't need to have your own ATM presence in a particular village. Is this okay? So this is how mobile ATMs are used. Likewise, there are health vans. Health vans keep moving from one place to the other in a particular district, and when they visit a particular village, they provide all the health related information. They make the people there in the villages aware also. They increase their awareness levels also, and they also do some precautionary checkups. For example, in case of children, what is the height, what is the weight. So these kind of services they deliver. So mobile health vans are also there. So this is another model that can be used to make your products reach the customers in the rural market. Then we have got banking correspondence. What happens with the banking correspondence? Naturally, again, we can see that it's not feasible for you to have a bank in every village. So what will happen? Banking correspondence, what happens is that a bank collaborates with somebody from a particular village to cater to the customers in that particular village. Now this person will be called the banking correspondent. He will be asked to deposit some security with the bank, and on behalf of the bank, he'll be depositing the money in the particular village that he is a resident of, and he'll also be dispersing the money to the customers there in that particular village. He might be given a handheld device through which he will be updating the records whenever he deposits some money or whenever he disburses some money to the customers. So through that handheld device, the record of the bank gets updated, and so he'll be carrying out transaction on behalf of the bank, and there are chances that he may run away with all the money. So there would be some kind of security that he will have to deposit with the bank, and naturally all these banking correspondents will be paid a particular commission. So this is the model that is being deliberated upon, and that is being also used by some of the banks now to cater to customers in the rural areas. So we have now got banking correspondents. In short, they are called BCs. Then we have got feeder markets. Feeder markets are the markets which feed the village. These markets are generally located in the towns which are near to the village. So I'll give you an example. For example, there can be so many different villages in Vadda. So you don't need to sell your product to every single village in Vadda. What you need to do is you go to the Vadda market, which is basically a feeder market for the villages which are, let's say, 5 kilometers from Vadda or a 2-kilometer trek from the main road. So this Vadda market would be the feeder market for all such villages in the near vicinity. So rather than trying to sell your product and trying to make your products reach the villages, you would only ensure that the product reaches the feeder market. From the feeder market, the customer would himself come to the feeder market, he would visit the feeder market, and then he would purchase the product. So this is another option that at times you can exercise. Then we've got village fairs or the melas, and then we also have weekly markets or haat. So you can sell your products, you can bring your products, you can distribute your products by displaying them in village fairs, by displaying them in the melas that villages have occasionally or periodically, and then you can also sell your products in the weekly markets that are there in a village on a periodic basis. So these weekly markets take place they are maybe organized every Wednesday or every Saturday. So you can go to the weekly market and then you can display your wares there, and you might be able to sell some of your products there. So this is how you make it easier for the customers to access your products. Again, post office and bank branches. Now as far as the bank branches is concerned, they are not having such a wide-ranging network. But if you talk about post office, you would find that the post offices are present in many of the villages. Even they are present in small villages. So post offices can be used as a marketer. If you are a marketer, you can sell your products to the post office. You can always get into contract with the post and telegraph department, and then you can place your products in these small post offices which are there at the rural areas, and your products would be displayed in these post offices, for which the post office is going to charge you some money, naturally, some commission they will be charging you. But then since your products are getting displayed in the post offices, you might be able to sell some of these products also. So in this sense, you are able to generate sales also without having to actually go to the rural markets. On your behalf, it is the post office branch that will be doing the business. It will be displaying your products, and then it will be making the sales. So this is how you don't even need to go to a rural market to be able to sell in the rural market. You can make use of these kind of networks which post office and banks generally have. And between the two, the post office and the bank branches, you would find that the post office network is far more wide ranging. So you would be making a good choice if you decide to sell your products through some collaboration with the Department of Post and Telegraph. Then we have the PDS model. I hope you know what the PDS model. Now this model was used for distribution by the governments, public distribution shop model or the ration shop model. What do they do in the ration shop model? A particular shopkeeper in a particular area is given the license to sell the subsidized ration to the local residents. So he does that, and he then charges some commission, and the government pays him that particular commission for this job of his. So this is one model that you can adopt, the PDS model, right? Now then we have another option that is available to you, which is called syndicate distribution. Now what happens, please understand, we have understood that in rural areas generally the population is much less, so their demand would also be much less. So it would not make any sense for you to buy or hire altogether a big vehicle and then simply ship your product, then simply transport your product through that vehicle which would take the supplies to the villages. It does not make sense, because the demand from the rural areas is much less. So many a times it would so happen that the truck that you are using to transport your products to the rural villages, to the rural areas, the truck may not even be half full. So what you can do in such cases, you can go for syndicate distribution with non-competing brands. So you can do what, you can start sharing the distribution net infrastructure and thereby the distribution expenditure with some other companies which are also catering to the customers in the same rural markets. But while you are doing this, you should take care that they are not your competitors. They are not your direct competitors. For example, Procter and Gamble's Ariel is there. Ariel, you know, is a washing powder, while Mariko's Mariko is one company which brings out the popular coconut brand of hair oil, the Parachute brand of hair oil. So what P&G did was they struck a deal with the Mariko, and Mariko had a good network. So what did they do? They started sharing trucks. So some part of the truck would be filled by the Mariko products, while the other part would be filled up by the Procter and Gamble products, specifically Ariel, the detergent powder. And then the product of both the two companies would be carried by the truck to the rural areas. So this way, on one hand, Procter and Gamble didn't have to invest in their own truck, buying their own trucks or maintaining their own trucks. On the other hand, Mariko also benefit because they were paid some commission by Procter and Gamble. So this is one option that you have, which you can exercise in the rural markets. But naturally, you would not want to compete. You would not want to be collaborating with your direct competitors naturally. Other innovative models are there, which includes ITC, Chopal and Project Shakti. So let us have a brief discussion on what ITC, Chopal is. See, ITC is a company which is also in the confectionery space, which is also in the products that they manufacture includes the noodle brand Yippee. So they are also in these kind of sectors, this particular kind of market. They are also producing these kind of products. So naturally, to produce noodle, you might want some raw material to be sourced from some village area. Likewise, if you are producing biscuits, ITC also comes up with biscuits and other such products. So for biscuit, you need some raw material supply from the village areas. So ITC understood that. So what did they do was they started setting up computer terminals in the villages, and they also trained a local resident to operate the computers. And what was the main objective? They wanted to do away with the intermediaries and the intermediary commissions. They wanted to source their raw material directly from the farmers in the rural areas. So the computer terminal which was set up, basically it would be performing two functions. The number one function was when the farmer has some produce of his which he wants to sell to ITC, he will come to the place where the computer terminal has been set up. In the same place, there would be some instruments which would be able to assess the quality of the item of the crop. So these tools would be used to assess the quality of the item, and then this information would be fed into the computer terminal. This information would be fed into the computer terminal, and computer terminal, based on some pre-programmed softwares, it would quote a particular price which ITC would wish to offer the farmer who is selling his produce. So the price would be quoted by the system, by the computer terminal, based on pre-programmed softwares which already would be there. And if the farmer is ready, he can sell, he can offload his product somewhere near the computer terminal, and he'll be paid the amount that has been quoted, right? And the things would be basically coordinated by a person from the same village who would be manning the computer terminal and some of the instruments which would be kept there for assessing the quality of the produce. So this way, ITC was not only able to source raw material from these rural areas, but then they also understood that this is also a good avenue to promote their product. So the same computer terminal, which was basically used for sourcing the raw material and quoting prices, they also started displaying the various products that they sell. So the farmer now could come to the computer terminal, have a look at the different products that ITC is selling, and have a look at the prices that ITC is quoting, and then may decide to actually purchase these products. So the computer terminal and the manned computer terminal, in fact manned because it was manned by a local youth who was trained in using the computer. So The computer terminal was basically performing two functions. One was it was assisting in quoting prices for raw material purchase from the farmers, and plus it was also displaying the various products on the screen. Naturally, it was also displaying various products that were being sold by RTC, so that the farmers could come in and then they could order a particular product. So the two functions were being performed by ITC eChopal, and that was why this particular project was known as eChopal. Chopal is the place where people gather in villages when they are free, and they interact with each other and they chat about various things. So that was why this particular project was known as eChopal. Another innovative model which was used by HUL, Hindustan Unilever Limited, was Project Shakti. Now basically HUL was finding it really difficult to sell their products in the remote rural areas, to deliver their products to the doorsteps of the customers in the remotest of the villages, specifically in south. So what did they do? They started interacting with the women from those villages which were very remote, and then they offered these women some credit. They also provided these women with bicycles on credit. They also provided these women training on selling skills, and then they told these women to take some products on credit and then try and sell them in their respective villages. So these women would basically, now these women were trained also, so they knew how to sell the products. They would every week or maybe every 15 days would come to the town, take the products on the credit, bring them on their bicycle to the village where they used to live, and then they used to sell it to the local residents in the village. The money that they would earn, through that money they would pay the credit amount, the amount which was due to HUL, and the remaining was their own earning. So this way this particular model functioned, and now HUL didn't have to set up any shop or didn't have to provide to a retail owner in a particular village. They were actually selling their products directly to the customers by making good use of the women which were there in these villages. And another good thing about this particular project was this also led to increase in the standard of living of the women as well as their family members. Why? Because up till now women were not employed and they were looking for some gainful employment opportunity. So now HUL was basically providing them this particular opportunity. The tasks for them was cut out. They had to basically go to the village, sell the HUL products, and then using the money they would pay the loan on which they had bought those products. So this was to be their task. So in a way this particular model not only helped HUL expand the reach of their products to the rural markets down south, to the remotest of the rural areas in the southern India, but they were also able to generate a significant amount of goodwill, because they were in a way helping out the women folks in these villages to stand up on their own feet. So in that sense this particular project also brought about a lot of fame to HUL and also generated a lot of goodwill for Hindustan Unilever Limited. You can read about these two very innovative models, ITC eChopal and Project Shakti, on internet. Also these are very well-known models, and they are also very much talked about. So you can always go to the internet to try and understand how these models function, to gain more information about how these models operated, right? So these are the various models that you can utilize to sell your products in the remote areas of the country, on to the remotest villages in the country. And you can see that all of these models have their own advantages, and naturally they have their own limitations. So it depends on you as a marketer as to which particular model you deem most relevant for the kind of products that you are selling. So in case I am selling an insurance product, for example, I might want to distribute my insurance product through the post offices that we have. That can be a good idea. If let's say I am trying to sell, for example, if I am selling FMCG products, So then village fairs could be a good idea for me. They could be a good distribution avenue for me. They could be a good place for me to display my wares. On the other hand, if I'm selling a consumer durable, I'm a company in the consumer durable sector, then I would probably go for extension counters. That would make a lot of sense. Again, FMCG products can also be sold through mobile traders and through bicycles. So depending on what kind of product you have and what kind of product or service you are offering, what kind of product you want to sell, you can opt for the most relevant model out of the 7 or 8 models that we have discussed here today. Right, now let us move on to the fourth P, which is basically the promotion. So how do you promote your product in the rural markets? First thing that was being used traditionally also, and that is still in use, is basically through radio and cinema. So you advertise your product in the middle of a movie, or maybe you advertise your product on radio. So these used to be traditional means of promoting your product. But then now we also have folk theatre. You know that the main avenue for entertainment for many of the people in the rural areas is still the folk theatre or the folk dance or some kind of lok nitya or lok natika that they are having. You would remember that I had talked about these folk theatres earlier also. For example, Nautanki and Tamasha, these are kind of folk theatres which we have. So Tamasha is prominent in Maharashtra while Nautanki is prominent in UP. So they may make use of these kind of events to promote their product, and that was done by Parachute, the hair oil, the coconut hair oil by the Mariko brand. So Mariko firm brought about, they actually launched this particular product in the markets, Parachute, and for promoting this particular product in the rural market, they make use of extensive use of folk theatre. Then we can also make use of outdoor ads. Outdoor ads means those ads which have been installed somewhere outside. For example, wall paintings. You might have seen wall paintings. You might have seen signboards. Tree boards you might have seen. Signboards on the side of the road you might be seeing. Electronic signboards are also coming up nowadays. So, and then we have got tree boards. You can have a look at the tree boards here. The boards, they have been put up on a particular tree. So that is why they are called tree boards. So you can have a look up at the different kind of tree boards that you can see here on this particular picture. And then we can also have shutter paintings. Shutters are painted. Many times ACC does this. It paints the shutters of the rural shops in its own red colors. So ACC does not even need to tell the observer. The people get to know just by looking at the color combination that it is basically an ACC promotion campaign. So this is what ACC has been doing. This ACC is basically in the cement sector. Again, Sinola washing cake, you might have seen so many places Sinola washing cake being drawn on a particular wall. So that is an example of an outdoor ad. Then we can always have home visits, farm visits and demonstration. Now why is the reason? What is the reason behind home visits, farm visits and demonstrations? See, basically you know that I have told this particular thing earlier also, that in rural areas people are not well informed. They might be literate, you might be seeing an increase in literacy levels, but still they do not have sufficient idea about so many things. They are not very well aware of the new technology that is coming up. So giving them a brochure is not going to help you, because they would not be able to read out the brochure. They would find it very difficult to read that particular brochure. So, or maybe giving a newspaper insert is also not going to be useful, because they are not going to actually read whatever is there in that particular newspaper insert. So for them, a better idea would be to use home visits or farm visits and to demonstrate to them how the product works, rather than giving them some kind of a leaflet or a brochure which describes how the product works. Here the rural customers would be demonstrated, they would be actually shown how the product is working. So for such purpose, if you undertake a visit to the household, to the house of a particular farmer, then it will become home visit, otherwise it will be farm visit, when you actually go and visit the farms rather than visiting the house. Why? Because when you are visiting the farm, it is easier for you to demonstrate how your tractor is working. if for example you are trying to sell agricultural machinery, don't you think it would be a better idea to demonstrate the unique features of your product in the field? Because there you can easily demonstrate, but you cannot carry your agri machinery or the tractor to the home, and there you would not be able to demonstrate. So you many times the marketers, rather than going to the home, they visit the farms and there only they demonstrate. This specifically happens in case of agricultural machinery like tractors or pumps or maybe sprinklers, water sprinklers which are used in drop irrigation. So for these kind of products, it is a better idea to go for home visits, to go for farm visits than to go for home visits. Then again, insurance products can also be sold like this. There are so many products which can be sold like this, consumer durables. So you can visit the customers and then demonstrate to them how your product works, and then he might want to purchase the product. Then again, group meetings are also organized. Group meetings are organized so that there are so many advantages of group meetings. Number one, the customers think of it as an avenue where they can meet other people. So this satisfies their social needs. So they are more positive towards, favorable towards attending such group meetings. So for example, MRF does what? The tire manufacturer does what? It basically organizes a meeting of tractor owners, but basically it is in the tire production and tire retailing space. Then why are they organizing the meeting for tractor owners? Because naturally they are looking forward to having these tractor owners use an MRF tire whenever they plan to replace their existing tire. So that is the main idea. So whenever the tractor owners, they want to replace the existing tires because the tire might be old or they might be worn out, then they should be thinking of replacing these tires by some MRF made tires. That is the whole idea behind these kind of meetings. So these kind of meetings are organized. So I've told you the first advantage that is there is people tend to think of these kind of meetings as an avenue to meet others, which fulfills their social needs. So they like attending such meetings. And secondly, the customers who have purchased the MRF tires, they may feel assured about the quality of their product because they are not the only ones who have purchased MRF tires. There are so many other people who have come for the meeting who have also purchased MRF tires. So naturally, it assures the customer about the quality of the MRF tire or about the product in general. So that is why group meetings can be a good idea for promoting one's products in rural markets. So that is what MRF used to do. They used to invite all the tractor owners, and then they would organize some fun activities for them. And once the people are relaxed and they are ready to listen to some kind of a promotional message, then they talk about the benefits of their tire. So people are more open to listen to them, and the tractor owners are more open to listen to them, and they are more likely then to purchase the MRF tires. Again, audio-visual publicity vans. Now, audio-visual publicity vans are vans which move from one village to the other, just like we had the mobile vans, mobile health vans or mobile ATMs. But they would be fitted up with some kind of a TV screen and audio facility. People would be called inside the van and they would be made to watch some kind of a program which is basically promoting the product. So this was an initiative which was taken by Maruti Suzuki. So they did what? They started sending their mobile vans, sending their publicity vans to different villages, and this publicity van was fitted with all the promotional material on the outside. Inside it was fitted with some kind of a screen and audio facilities, and the audio facilities were there inside. And then when this particular van visited a particular village, and this van was also fitted with 15-16 chairs, so all the villagers would be invited to sit inside, to come inside, to step inside and to sit on those seats. And then in the screen that they used to have inside the van, they would run some kind of a promotional material to make the audience make the audience feel that they want to buy this particular product, or they want to buy the cars from the Maruti stable, from the Maruti Suzuki stable. So that was their idea of promoting their products among the villagers. Then we have got examples of event sponsorships. For example, you know what sponsorships are. We have discussed this in marketing management also. So herein what happens is, for example, Britannia did what? Britannia Tiger, basically the Tiger brand of biscuits that Britannia sells in the rural market, they started organizing Lagan matches. Lagan was a big hit somewhere around 2002-03. That was a super hit movie around that time, and so they started organizing, which was, again, this movie was based on the theme of cricket. The theme was basically cricket being played between domestic people from India who were under the British colonial rule, and ultimately the Indian team made up of farmers and people from the villages. That team was able to defeat the team which was led by the British officials. So that was the whole storyline in that particular movie. So they started organizing these kind of cricket matches in villages, and using these kind of events they were able to promote their Britannia Tiger brand. Then one more, and in fact this is last but not the least point that we are going to discuss today. Opinion leaders are used extensively by marketers to promote their products in the rural markets and to be able to sell their products in the rural markets. Now, what happens? What is basically an opinion leader? Opinion leaders are those people, again, the term is self-explanatory, they lead the opinion. They play a major role in, they basically have a major impact on the opinions, on the attitudes, on the beliefs of people who come in contact with them. So they have a major role in molding their beliefs and opinions. That is why they are called opinion leaders. For example, in classes also there are opinion leaders. So let us say, for example, there are 10 to 11 students in a class, and then since the teacher is a little too strict, they want to lodge a complaint against the teacher in the class. But how should they go about it? For that, some opinion leader should be there. So that particular opinion leader will tell the whole class, okay, let us go and lodge a complaint against this particular teacher. So this guy is the opinion leader. So these kind of opinion leaders are present everywhere. And again, one more thing is, opinion leaders are category specific. For example, in your home also, in your house also, you would find that whenever something related to maybe purchase of a mobile phone is to be decided, purchase of, let's say, a bike has to be decided, or maybe you are planning to purchase a car, or maybe consumer durable, generally the children who are adolescents, who are in the age group of 16, 17, 18, they are opinion leaders, because it is their opinion which has the greatest weightage, and their opinion also impacts the opinion of other members in the family. On the other hand, if you want to buy something from the kitchen, who is the opinion leader? It is your mother, or maybe your elder sister who is working in the kitchen. So if a particular brand of spices has to be brought, which particular brand of spices? Should it be Catch, or should it be Goldie, or should it be some MDH or some other kind of brand? That will be decided by the person who is generally working in the kitchen. It could be your mother, it could be your sister, it could be you also. So opinion leaders are category specific, which means basically in your family, when it comes to buying kitchen utensils, it comes to buying spices, it comes to buying fruits and vegetables, your mother might be the opinion leader. On the other hand, if in your family it comes to a decision regarding which particular television to buy, which particular mobile to buy, the children who are knowledgeable, who are 16, 17, 18 years of age, they are very much knowledgeable about the new technology, they are the opinion leaders, and people, the other members in the family, go by what their opinion is. So these kind of people are called opinion leaders, and they have a significant impact on people who come in close contact with them, and that is why they can help mold the opinion of these people as well. So opinion leader can mold the opinion, attitude, beliefs of these people as well. So if you once convince the opinion leader, then you can rest assured that he will go on to convince the other people who come in close contact with them. So rather than trying to convince all the people in a village area, you can spot out the opinion leaders and then convince them about your product, and then they will further convince the other people in the village about the quality of your product and about the merit of your product. When in some communities in India, this was regarding the polio immunization program. Some communities in India, they were having their own apprehensions regarding the polio drop, so they altogether rejected the offer of free polio immunization for their children. They would not cooperate with the government whenever there used to be a immunization drive, and then it was something that caused a lot of tension to the government officials, because ultimately if some of the children remain unimmunized, they may be the carriers of polio virus and they can ultimately transmit it to other children whom they come into contact with. So what was done by the government officials? They went to these areas, they went to these communities, they spotted the opinion leaders, and they found out the religious heads are the opinion leaders in these communities. So they did not appeal to all the people in the communities, they only went to the community leaders, convinced them about the quality and efficacy of the polio drug, and the religious leaders, the opinion leaders, they ultimately convinced the other people in the community to let their children have that particular polio drug. So this is how the opinion leader approach is used, not only in marketing but also in governance. So Mahindra & Mahindra has been using the opinion leaders approach. They use bankers as opinion leaders because they know whenever somebody has to buy a tractor in a rural area, generally most likely he's going to buy it on credit. He's not going to be able to pay all the amount in one go, so he'll be buying on credit. To obtain credit, he will be going to a bank so that he can apply for loan there, and that is why they started interacting with the bankers, and they convinced the bankers about the quality of Mahindra products, Mahindra & Mahindra vehicles. And the main objective was that when a particular villager who has decided to purchase a truck or maybe a tractor, he goes to a local bank branch, the bank branch manager will not only provide him the loan but will also try to convince him to buy a Mahindra & Mahindra tractor instead of buying some other brand or instead of buying some product of some other brand. So that was the whole idea about this particular approach. So this is what was also done by HUL. HUL does what? Basically HUL has been selling products like soap, hand wash, toothpaste, toothbrush. So what they did was to increase awareness about oral hygiene, because if there is more awareness about oral hygiene, people would tend to brush their teeth more. They might start brushing their teeth twice a day, morning and then in the night. They might start using more of toothpaste every day. So this way they would be able to expand their sales. HUL would be able to expand their sales. So what they did was they started promoting oral hygiene in villages, and they started convincing the teachers in the local schools, in the village schools, about the merits of oral hygiene and why oral hygiene plays an important role in the overall state of health of a particular individual. So they not only did this, but they also convinced the teacher about the quality of their products and the efficacy of their products in ensuring the oral hygiene. The whole objective was that once the teacher would be convinced, then he would convince his students to buy HUL products, to buy HUL toothpaste. He would not first of all only convince the product regarding brushing the teeth twice or such good habits, but he would also try to convince them about the quality of the HUL toothpaste and toothbrushes, and in that sense he would be able to make them more favorable towards buying HUL toothpaste and toothbrushes, and ultimately this would materialize into sales for HUL. So this was the whole idea behind having teachers as opinion leaders. So friends, up till now we have discussed the marketing mix in general for the rural markets. We have not discussed any specific product in detail. We have only discussed marketing mix in general, but in the next discussion that we'll talk about the marketing mix in context of agricultural inputs and agricultural machinery. Till then,